Have you heard about the marshmallow test? Basically, when you are faced with a marshmallow, you have two choices. Wait for the first marshmallow to finish before getting a second marshmallow, or just enjoy one marshmallow now and call it a day. Do you anticipate waiting a certain amount of time or even at all for the second marshmallow? In the 1960s, preschool aged children were faced with a conundrum. They had no idea that the way they handled the situation would become part of some of the most well known psychological research ever conducted. Welcome to Prepared Leaders. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Stanford Marshmallow Test in this video. What it was, what it had to say about success, and how it affects psychology today. So, this test's premise was rather straightforward. Walter Mischel, a professor at Stanford, and his team gave a single marshmallow to a young child, usually between the ages of 4 and 5. They informed the youngsters that they would leave the room and return in a little while. Now that the marshmallow had been consumed, the child was unable to obtain another. But if the child waited until the researchers came back into the room, they would get a second marshmallow. Children who delayed eating the marshmallow were noted by researchers. Then the scientists waited. They waited for a very long time. In addition, the researchers followed up with the kids when they were teenagers and questioned their parents about their cognitive skills, how they dealt with pressure, and the capacity for self-control. A few years later, the researchers gave the individuals another self-control test. They also looked at the child's SAT and ACT scores. What then did they discover? In essence, Mitchell and his team found that the child's early ability to control himself or herself has a lot to do with how successful that child will be in life. Success took many forms. When they waited for the second marshmallow, the kids got 1. Higher SAT scores, 2. Lower levels of substance abuse, 3. Less likely to be obese, and 4. Better social skills and self-control. In fact, Susan Wojcicki was among the kids who did well on the marshmallow test, which shook me. In her book, How to Raise Successful People, Susan's mother, who is the CEO of YouTube, said that one of the researchers had told her that Susan was the child who had waited the longest. Because of how the experiment was set up, the results were not made public until the 1980s and 1990s. Since then, this study has been seen as one of the most important in psychology. It led to new ways of thinking about how personality affects success and how it can be predicted. But first, let's discuss why the kids would consume the marshmallow immediately. The marshmallow experiment, however, was able to show researchers a connection between self-control and achievement. Simply put, being able to control yourself as a young child may help you do better as an adult. But what affected self-control was that not all kids immediately seized the marshmallow. The hot and cool system of thought that Mitchell and his team created helped to explain why kids would have devoured the marshmallow right away. For any work requiring immediate pleasure, the same way of thinking could be used. Similar to buying something or lighting up a cigarette. So let's get started. When they are not enticed, most people are in the cool system. It is the mental capacity to consider long-term advantages. We are aware of the detrimental effects of smoking and that giving up a cigarette will improve our long-term health. We are aware that waiting will result in more marshmallows and that going to the gym rather than clicking the snooze button on the alarm would make us feel more awake and ultimately healthier. However, heated stimuli on the other side harm the cooling system. Our behavior turns impulsive when things heat up and become more comfortable. The marshmallow is consumed, the cigarette is smoked, and the snooze button is pressed. The reason why some people get hotter than others is now a question. What makes some stimuli hotter than others then? Psychologists like Mitchell have been working to find answers to these issues. There are also some other studies in this field. The Stanford Marshmallow Test used information from a small group of people who were not very different from each other. Not every researcher agreed that the experiment had discovered the one real secret to success. So the marshmallow test was repeated in a more recent study, putting more attention on other social and economic factors that could affect a child's development. And before we continue, I'll be giving you time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell to be notified every time a new video is uploaded. And let's continue. The mother's educational background was the primary consideration. Depending on whether or not the participant's mother had a college degree, they divided the individuals into groups. Researchers also considered the child's home environment, early cognitive development, and family background. In other words, they discovered that self-control did not have the same impact on success as the marshmallow experiment suggested. Children from wealthier backgrounds were more likely to simply exercise self-control. Additionally, the researchers discovered that self-control wasn't actually important in predicting success after controlling for social and economic factors, which raised a lot of serious red flags. This raises more than just the issue of self-outcomes. In addition, it questions why kids even reach for the marshmallow in the first place. Researchers have expressed a variety of ideas, including views on how a child's capacity to use and take resources is impacted by scarcity. Consider how little trouble rich kids have waiting for food, toys, or other necessities. Their parents are able to pay for it. They will succeed. Children from lower income homes, however, have greater reasons to be concerned about a possible shortage of food. A parent may make a commitment to take their children to a good restaurant or to purchase them a fun item, but they might not be able to follow through. You can't promise that something will be there later or that you'll receive a reward for waiting. So you might as well take it if it's right in front of you. The new use of the marshmallow test intrigued me somewhat. According to a few other studies on self-control and willpower, people are better able to resist temptation if they can let it go out of their hands. For instance, if a drunk person discards any alcohol in the house, if someone attempting to lose weight to hire someone to shop for them, or if someone who wants to study just sells their gaming system, the concept is that resisting temptation is incredibly difficult, but removing the option makes it very simple. They found that the kids in the marshmallow experiment films did best when they were doing something else. They played a game, they closed their eyes, or perhaps they sang to themselves. This is simply one more example of the willpower idea, but I'll have another video on that topic later. Now that new research seems to show that the marshmallow test is wrong, let's go back to it. It's tough to dismiss how fascinating the study's impact is. Through his research, Mitchell was able to demonstrate to the world how a child's chances of success were affected by their personality. Since then, more research has been done on the links between different personality traits and success in things like business or romantic relationships. If the marshmallow test didn't exist, we might not be familiar with the terms like growth, mentality, or even emotional intelligence. Additionally, the marshmallow experiment is not the only well-known experiment that has recently come under fire. There is currently what is known as a replication crisis in psychology. Redoing famous studies like the Stanford jail experiment and the marshmallow test shows that they may not be as accurate or reliable as people thought before. Like any field of study that uses the scientific method, psychology is always changing and growing. And psychologists are always tweaking, changing, and modifying hypotheses that don't hold up to modern tests. To get back to our main point, self-control does affect behavior and maybe even success. However, it's up to the present and following generations to discover more about how self-control is really affected, as well as how it affects other personality traits and elements. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and turn on the notification bell so you will know when I upload new content. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in my next video.